Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the 2018 ACC Coaches Teleconference. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode, and afterwards we will conduct a question-and-answer session. At that time, if you have a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. If at any time during the conference you need to reach an operator, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Monday, February 12, 2018. And now I'd like to turn the conference over to Brian Morrison. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome everybody to today's basketball teleconference. We'll get things started with Clemson head basketball coach Brad Brownell, whose Tigers will be at Florida State on Wednesday, and the game shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
Only had one game last week. Came off a nice win against Pitt at home on Thursday. We had our bye week over the weekend, so we didn't play. Got to give our guys a couple days to kind of rest and get ourselves ready to go. Obviously, we've got a big week this week. We play at Florida State on Wednesday and then host Duke on the weekend. So another big week in the ACC.
We open for questions.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Coach, a question here from Greensboro. With your 4-game win streak, with the time you had off, was that a good timing, or would you have preferred to keep playing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think sometimes when you're playing well like that, you probably would rather just keep playing games. We did have some guys battling some sickness. Marquise Reed had the flu during the Pitt game, so I think it was probably good for him to have some time over the weekend to rest. But I do think when you're playing well, sometimes it's you almost feel like you'd rather just keep playing.
And we have a question from Scott Keeper with the Greenville News. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Your team all season has done a good job of just kind of putting the rankings and any hype associated with it in the background. Now that the NCAA came out with like a projection yesterday, with putting you as a 3rd seed, is that going to be a more difficult challenge for you to keep you guys focused on just the task at hand?
Yeah, I don't know, Scott. I haven't seen our guys since yesterday's selection or whatnot. I hope not. I hope it's just more of the same for us. It's not something we'll talk about much. I'm sure some of the media will talk about it a little bit, but our guys have done a pretty good job this year of just, we talk a lot about daily improvement and just focusing on the things we can control right in front of us, and haven't worried at the beginning of the year when nobody thought we were going to be very good, and haven't paid much attention when we started to have some success. So, I'm hopeful that that's not something that distracts them too much, but certainly it is a nice reward for the guys to know that we've been ranked and playing well and things of that nature.
And your next 2 upcoming opponents in Florida State and Duke are both teams that are kind of defined by their athleticism and length. Obviously, that presents a challenge for anyone, but particularly a team like yours that's kind of built around the guard play.
Yeah, there's no question. Those are going to be very challenging games this week. Going down to Florida State it's always an extremely difficult place. We play those guys twice every year. So we know that how they do things. They know how we do things. They're unbelievably hard to beat down there. They just play extremely hard, defend very well. Offensively, they share the ball. They've got a lot of guys that are capable scorers right now. They're a little bit like us in that there's, really almost 5 guys that are double-figure type scorers. They almost have 6 guys, I think, averaging 9 points or more. So, certainly they have tremendous size and length around the rim, but as much as anything, Leonard just gets their teams to play really hard.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Coach Brownell?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you.
All right, Brad. Thank you. And we'll hold now for Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner. We have with us now Georgia Tech head basketball coach Josh Pastner, whose Yellow Jackets will be at Wake Forest on Wednesday. The game shown on the Regional Sports Network at 9 o'clock. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
Yeah, no, we just got hit by the injury bug again yesterday. Jose Alvarado has a fractured elbow, so he'll be out for the remainder of the year, unfortunately. So we've been hit all year long. You know, obviously Ben Lammers is still playing on a bumped ankle, and so it's just been a tough year with the injuries. Duke yesterday, really good. They got regardless of what anyone says about them, you know, in the media, they're as talented as anyone in the country and have a legit shot at winning the whole thing. And got a tough game on Wednesday at Wake Forest, Saturday at home versus Virginia Tech. We just need to find a way to get some wins. You know, we're going to have to play some young guys and go from there. And with our depth being really cut into because of the injuries, and we'll just keep trying to get better. And that's the life of the ACC.
We open to questions for Coach Pastner.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Steve Phillips with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yes, Josh, I know it was by necessity they had to do this, but do you see a glimmer of hope at all in what Evan and Moses were able to do for you in the minutes you had to give them last night?
They were very good. I've treated those two as redshirt guys for the last few months, just in the sense that to have them do extra lifting, extra individual skill work, literally treating them as redshirt guys, even though they weren't redshirting. And I think that extra work really paid off, and it showed last night, and they'll obviously have earned the right to get more time moving forward.
What are the main points of emphasis now as you do move forward now? Anything you need to do differently with them, or are they pretty prepared to step in your opinion, because of what you have done there?
Well, I mean, I think they'll be more prepared because of what we have done, and we'll continue to stay the course with them on how we've treated them, and as in terms of the redshirt mentality, and we'll just continue to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good morning. To continue with Jose, I guess, how does that change or not the way you play with now that you don't have him now?
Don't know yet. That will be part of that'll be part of us continuing to look at some things that what we've got to do to get better and improve, and make the adjustments we need to make. So we'll just we'll spend these next 2 days thinking about different things, and then have a game plan going in for Wednesday.
Obviously, it's going to be harder now without Jose, but what does this team need to do better to kind of get back to the team you were in early January, beating Miami and Notre Dame?
You know what? It's something for us that we've just, we've got to really take care of the basketball. We only had 10 turnovers last night, 3 in the second half. We haven't defended as well lately. We were much better in the second half, but we're just going to have to compete and fight and scrap and kick and just claw our way back and to give ourselves a chance. And we're undermanned, but we're going to have to find a way, and we're just going to have to just compete and play so hard to give us the best chance.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Charles Odom with the Associated Press. Please proceed.
Coach, you described the injury as a fractured elbow, and I know that they had said dislocated last night, but going to the hospital for X-rays.
After the hospital late last night, I found out really late last night. Yeah, so that we went from dislocated to fractured, which meant that dislocated you'd be out 4 weeks. Fractured is going to be 6 to 8.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So. There, in terms of any postseason or ACC tournament, anything like that, that would
he's done. Even if we went on a run and went to the Final Four, he wouldn't play the remainder of the year. He's out.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions for Coach Pastner?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a follow-up from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Obviously, last year you were, one of the surprise teams, if not the surprise team in the ACC. This year, obviously, still some very good pieces, but, the wins have been harder to come by. Did you kind of go into the season thinking this might be a tougher slog than it was last year?
Well, here's what I would tell you. This is a major rebuild job. When I got the job, they told me we win 20 games total, 20 total in our first 2 years. We won 21 last year. We're at 11, so that's 32. So we're 12. We're 12 above where they told us we would be. And I had told everybody before this year, told people in the summer, I told my bosses that this year was going to be the hardest year of the rebuild. And I know people say, well, you had these guys back, but we lost 3 guys who started for me that were 23 years of age, and they were seniors, and they were 3 23-year-olds. And I knew this was going to be the hardest year of this major rebuild job, and then you get hit with just stuff, and unfortunately with injuries, and we got hit with injuries, and it has just been an injury-filled season. Where last year we had not one thing, not even an ankle injury we had all year. So it's just the ball has not bounced our way. We've been snake bitten on that, and even Ben. I mean, Ben's he's limping through, and because we just don't have enough, and he's trying to tough it out for us. But that's part of it, and this is a major rebuild, and this was year 2, which I had said from the beginning. And last summer, I said at ACC Media Day, this was going to be the hardest year of them all.
Thank you.
Coach, we have a question. We have a question here from Greensboro. You talk about a rebuild. Have there been some pleasant surprises that you can look on right now?
Well, I like our fact of our young guys, and we're going to continue to get better. We got a good recruiting class coming in, and it's just going to take time. I mean, this is no one above us in the ACC. I mean, you come in last year, pick last place, and so from the beginning part when I got the job, and no one was just going to drop. I mean, we're going to have to catch them. We're going to have to do our part to move up the ladder. No one's dropping down. So it's just going to take some time. And in a 15-team league at this level, we've got to continue to get better, got to continue to increase our talent, and we've got to get old and stay old.
Thank you. Any further questions for Coach Pastner?
To register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll hear from you again next week.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Hello?
Okay, Coach, hang on. Okay, we have with us now NC State head basketball coach Kevin Keatts, whose Wolfpack will be at Syracuse on Wednesday night. The game shown on the ACC network with a 9 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
Well, we had a tough week. Obviously, we played a really tough game at Virginia Tech. I didn't think we played very well on the defensive end. When you look at Robinson, obviously had a great night against us, clawed back into the game, but obviously it was too late. And then we had a great home game against Carolina, and it was a tremendous offensive game, I thought, for both teams. And unfortunately, they made some plays late in the game to be able to seal the win.
And we open it for questions for Coach Keatts.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Steve Phillips with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Coach, looking ahead now, can you talk a little bit about Tyus Battle and what he's doing, and also just, it's not a one-man show there, kind of the balance they have on their team at the moment. They seem to be getting from three guys scoring-wise and also defensively and rebounding from some of the young kids, too.
Well, he's playing well. He makes them go. Obviously, he leads the team, obviously, in scoring, and the emotional leader and physical leader. And when you look at him, anytime late shot clock, he's a guy that's going to have the ball in his hand. He makes plays for him. He's making his pull-ups. He's shooting well behind the three-point line. He is playing as good a basketball as any guard in this league, and obviously he's going to be a tough matchup for us.
How about their other guys? I'm talking about some of the younger guys also inside, Brissett and Chakwu, I believe is the way you pronounce it, the guys who are playing inside, the rebounding they give them. Is that a tough matchup for you guys inside, particularly there?
Well, they do such a great job, and obviously the one thing that makes Syracuse so special is obviously you know that you're coming into the game and they're going to play a 2-3 zone, and they're great at it, and those guys do a great job of protecting the rim. What's lost in how well they play is they will score around the basket. They're very active on both ends of the floor, and so it's really tough because even when you try to game plan for them, you know what they're going to do, but because of their length and their ability on the defensive end, they make you take tough shots, and then offensively, they are doing a great job of keeping a lot of balls live, getting a lot of offensive rebounds. So it's a tough matchup for us because of their length and their ability to, score and defend on the other end.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Steve Wiseman with the Raleigh News and Observer. Please proceed.
Good morning, Kevin. I was thinking back to the Pitt game. You guys had a little bit of trouble against the zone in that one. You shot a pretty low percentage. I mean, is there anything you take from that one as you get ready to face a really tough zone at Syracuse?
Well, I think it's Steve. It's a different zone, even though everybody says, well, you're playing against zone. I don't know that there's a better zone in the country than Syracuse. Jim does a tremendous job with that zone, but I think what we learned is we've got to do a great job of getting a lot of ball and player movement. When you look at the zone, we did a good job more so in the second half of getting great looks where we just didn't settle for shots outside. I thought we had some penetration, and we were able to make the plays from inside out. And I think you got to do the same thing with that zone. You got to have player and ball movement. You got to try to get into the middle, which is really tough, but you got to play from inside out against it.
And one more thing, on Saturday you talked about you wanted to get this team to believe that they're better than maybe they thought, their expectations, that kind of thing, to believe they could do this down the stretch. Do you think that's going to come more from the older guys or the younger guys that have never been to the NCAA tournament? They're trying to get there for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to come from both groups. When you look at the older guys, as I said before, the older guys, the only guy who has played relevant basketball, who's made its way to play in postseason, will be Al Freeman. But as I said before, Steve, we're not even talking about postseason at this moment. Our focus is trying to be on Syracuse, and we know that we have 6 games remaining in our regular season, and obviously we got to start with the first one that's in front of us, and so obviously we just got to play better, and we got to understand where we're at right now. We're right in the middle of the thick of everything, and obviously we got to try to take care of business.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have a question from John Kekis with the Associated Press. Please proceed.
Coach, you pretty much already answered my question, I think, but just your impressions of the Syracuse backcourt, I guess.
Man, they're good. I mean, that's what makes them so special is that their ability to go off the dribble. They're very good. They rebound their position. I think what's lost in them is they got great size. So on the defensive end, they can disrupt everything, and they make it tough to get the ball inside or shoot over in that zone. And then and on the offensive end, when they need a basket, what makes them special is everybody on the team understands who their scorers are, and those two guys are really good, especially Battle.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Coach Keatts?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a follow-up from Steve Wiseman with the Raleigh News and Observer. Please proceed.
Hey, Kevin, I did want to ask you about LeVar Batts, and his minutes disappeared Saturday. You played a couple of minutes against Virginia Tech. What is his role with the team right now? Do you see him being a factor at all for the rest of the season, or is this just kind of a one-week thing for him?
Yeah, I do see him being a factor. I just felt like in that particular game we need a little bit more scoring at that particular time, and decided to go with more Sam than LeVar. But obviously we've got enough basketball to be played that we need him to be more involved, and obviously he will play some more games for us. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a question from Mike Waters with the Syracuse Post-Standard. Please proceed.
Kevin, you just played Carolina for the second time this season over the weekend. Syracuse just played Wake Forest for the second time. Now you're going to meet each other for the first. What are the challenges of getting ready for an opponent for the first and only time of the season so late in the schedule versus maybe getting ready for an opponent when you're seeing them for the second time?
Well, obviously when you played a team already, not that you know everything about them, but you're very familiar with those guys and what they're trying to do, and you've already had a game under your belt where you can go back and see where the things worked or what didn't work against those guys. When you get into February and it's the first time you play a team, all you have is to be able to watch them on tape, and but it's tough because you're watching them against teams who may not play the same style that you play and everything else. But as I look at them, they're long, they're athletic. The two guards are playing great, and the role players around them are doing a tremendous job understanding that these are the guys that's going to help them win games. They rebound the basketball. The zone has always been a problem. They're good at it. As I said, I don't know there's another team in the country that's as effective as playing zone as those guys, because obviously they play it, 100% of the time. So that will be our challenge. Trying to contain those two guards and obviously not letting their role players really hurt us, and then, obviously trying to find ways to score against their 2-3 zone.
Any further questions for Coach Keatts?
To register for a question, please press 1-4.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And we'll hold now for Pittsburgh's head coach, Kevin Stallings. Okay, we have with us now Pittsburgh head basketball coach Kevin Stallings, whose Panthers will host Boston College on Tuesday. The game is shown on ESPN News with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open it for questions.
Well, we're struggling, and we got whooped yesterday by Louisville. They were fantastic, and we were not. So only one day of prep time here for this game, and I think Jim's done a fantastic job with his team. They play with aggression and confidence, and their guard play is really fantastic, and so we did not defend very well yesterday at all, and so we're going to have to do the best we can to get that fixed if we're going to have any hopes of defending Boston College.
And we open it for questions for Coach Stallings.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Steve Phillips with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Kevin, a lot of people are talking about Boston College being one of the surprise stories of the season and whatnot, but as you start to look at them closely and think back to the kids last year, could you kind of see this coming to some point? They look like they have the talent. It's starting to fall in place for them, in your opinion, now. That's what's happened there?
Well, I think that I think what they had was young talent that was really inexperienced, and now that talent's starting to grow up a little bit, and they've done a great job of evaluating guys and developing them, and so those guys are getting much better, and so yeah, I think that you could see it coming. I think that you could see that they had some talent, albeit it was very, very young, and it was going to require some patience. But yes, I certainly thought that when we played them last year, that you could see signs of guys that could be really impactful players in this league.
I know you have your own blueprint for the way you want to do things, but when you see that and you see things going on elsewhere with some of the younger teams that are growing, does that give you hope now? You're playing the young guys. This is, I guess, eventually what you're wanting to see there, right? Exactly.
Well, no question. We need to grow these guys up. I mean, honestly, in a perfect world, a lot of my players would be playing 10 and 12 minutes a game as role players on a good ACC team, but we don't have the veteran guys in the program to warrant that, and so these guys are playing 25 and 30 minutes instead, and so but yes, as they get this experience and take some of these lumps, hopefully there's a process here where we're learning how to compete and learning what it takes to ultimately be successful in this league.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Craig Meyer with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Please proceed.
Yeah, Kevin, this is kind of building on those past couple of questions there, but based on who you guys have now, and who you have coming in for next season, what do you realistically think this program could be next season, or maybe even 2 years from now?
Well, it's hard to predict that, because obviously this is a great league, but I can certainly tell you that we have our best player is not playing, and that's Ryan Luther, and he'll be back next year. One of our best players, maybe our other best player, Malik Ellison, is sitting out because of the transfer rule. So you add two guys that are going to be impactful guys, and again, I don't want to put too many expectations on Malik with him having sat out this year or whatever, but we expect him to be an impact player based on what we've seen in practice. And so you add two guys to the mix, and that's before you get to any of the guys that we've signed. You add two guys to the mix that are going to be more experienced, have had more success and that kind of thing, and that's what we need. We need some experienced guys that these younger guys can look to when the game gets tough for them. to kind of help them through, and that's what we don't have right now. And so I think we could be significantly better next year, and hopefully even better than that the year after that.
Yeah, during a process like this, Kevin, how important is the idea of patience?
Well, Craig, and because you're here, it was obvious when I took the job that year two had a chance to be a tough year, and it's been even tougher than we anticipated, but we've had to start over to some degree, and when you do that, it does require. It doesn't require patience, but it requires patience if you're realistic about it, and so it's requiring patience of me. It's requiring patience of my players, and certainly those people around the program and our fans. But it's never built overnight, and you just try to make good long-term decisions and recruit the right kind of guys that do the right things, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Craig.
And our next question is from Matthew Lieberman with the Daily Orange. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach. In looking at now Cameron Johnson, you've had the opportunity to play against him in the game against North Carolina. What kind of differences do you see in him from just 1 year ago?
I think that he's playing. I don't know what I would call this differences, but I just think that he's playing aggressively. He gives them another scoring option, obviously, and he's in our game. He made some really good hustle plays, and again, I'm not saying that these are differences. I'm not saying that these are things that are better than last year or different than last year. I'm just saying these are my observations. But he made some really good hustle plays against us, and has seemingly rebounded the ball well for them, and so he's just given them an extra. An extra experienced scoring option, and a guy that plays hard and gets on the floor after loose balls and does things like that.
And you mentioned needing some veteran leadership on your team, and you mentioned that you have two guys that are going to be coming back next year that you just don't have at this point. With a guy like that transferring, how different do you think your team would have been this year?
Well, that's tough to say. I mean, it's tough to say. It depends on if everything else goes the same, and so it doesn't do us any good to say what if and that sort of thing. So we have what we have, and we've had some tough breaks along the way. So we're just going to continue to do the best we can, and our guys are practicing with great effort and trying to play with great effort, and we're overmatched at times, and we just have to keep going and keep getting better until some of that changes.
Thank you. And our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Stallings. How you doing?
I've been better, but I'm okay.
That's good. That's good. Sorry for the tough loss yesterday against Louisville. What do you guys have to do to get better against a Boston College squad?
Well, we're going to have to play better defensively. Louisville got the ball wherever they wanted it, whenever they wanted it. It felt like, and really got going offensively, and we couldn't do anything to get them slowed down. So Boston College obviously has great guard play, and so we're going to have to be much better defensively if we hope to have a chance to win that game.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have with us now Virginia head basketball coach Tony Bennett, whose Cavaliers will be at Miami on Tuesday in the game shown nationally on ESPN at 9 o'clock. And as we do each week, we'll go right to questions for Coach Bennett.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Morning, Tony. I'm curious some of the defensive breakdowns and some of the things. Easy, sweetheart. Sorry about that, Coach. I'm curious with some of the breakdowns if you saw an element of either physical or emotional fatigue from your team on Saturday.
Yeah, as I watched the game, I thought really it was two good defensive teams going at it. Virginia Tech played terrific defense, and I thought early we were a little soft on the basketball, and they got some of those shots and had a couple lapses. But honestly, as I watched it, we played pretty hard defensively throughout the first, once we got down by 10 or 11. And then we had a real good second half defense, but there was just a couple of plays, couple backdoor cuts, good play they ran. We stood, and got backdoored. And then in the overtime, just a couple of a breakdown, a time we slip, a time we didn't switch when we were supposed to, and then they made it some tough shots and good plays. So I really think defensively it was just one of those games where it was going to be hard to come by buckets, and it was, we were down by 4 with 50-some seconds, and we made a late comeback. They missed a free throw, then we were up by 5 with I can't remember 40-some seconds, and they made a 3, and we missed free throws. And it was just one of those games that was really hard fought. They deserved the win, but in watching the tape, defensively we worked hard, and they're so quick that you got to be right. They're playing at a high level right now too.
And as you look at Miami, they're another team that kind of prides themselves on the defensive end. What makes them a good defensive club?
Well, they're committed to it. They work. They have good quickness, and that's again the thing you notice about Virginia Tech. But they're quick. They get after the ball. They play 4 guards mostly, and they with Lawrence playing the 4, they can really get to the ball. They'll jam the lane and do things. And Coach Larranaga, he knows what he's doing. So they make you earn your looks and protect the paint and do a good job.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Our next question is from Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Tony, how important would it be to get some more inside scoring? And is that, when you look at all the missed three-pointers the other day, does that come from not having that much diversity?
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from how well Virginia Tech defended. They really did a good job of flooding the lane and just taking it away. And sometimes it's like going against a zone. You do have to make some shots. Now, we probably took a handful of ill-advised ones, but some of those we've made in some other games. I just thought there was a few more we took that were either rushed or too contested that maybe there's enough time for an attack and a kick or a play. But in the second half, I thought we did go inside more, Doug, and I liked that. Not necessarily, again, it was hard to score in there, but at least we got some good inside-outside attacking, and those were some of the shots we made from 3 and a couple interior passes. So whether you score out of a post move, we're not a dominant post move scoring team that way, but still touching it at times. And I thought there was a more consistency in the second half. Isaiah, Jack, even DeAndre, they made some good passes and plays out of it. Mamadi did a couple times. So that was kind of what I think we had to do. And, we do shoot the 3, but I think we shot too many, but also part of that was Virginia Tech's defense.
Our next question is from the line of David Teal with the Daily Press. Please proceed.
Tony, in the rush of deadline the other night, we neglected to ask about Ty Jerome and the bandage on his right hand, thumb. Did he have a Tom Brady thing going on, and might it have contributed to 1 for 10 from the field?
Absolutely. That's the only reason why I missed those shots. No, I think Virginia Tech, certainly, as I said, I do want to give them credit. They were a different defensive team this time. I mean, their quickness, the way they really jammed the lane and flooded, and then got to shooters. They did a real good job. Ty, he's got it's like a little hard cast thing on it. So I'm not sure how much that affected him. I wish he didn't have to have it, but he's got to protect, that thing until it heals up. I don't know if it's just like a sprain or what exactly. it is. But he was able to play, and Ty will tell you, that's fine, nothing. So, but hopefully he'll get used to it a little more. And, again, no one shot it well in that game. DeAndre hit 2 threes, but I guess Devin hit some. But, between Kyle and Ty, those guys, it wasn't on, and sometimes that's going to happen, and we still had opportunities. But that bandage and that thumb, I'm not sure. If it's a little different on there. I felt it actually the other day in practice, and I didn't realize there was a hard plastic piece in there. So hopefully over time he'll adjust to it or won't need it much longer.
How did he hurt it in practice?
Yeah, I think it was a practice injury. Again, I don't even know all the details. More just, I think it was more just a sprain, but I'll let you handle that with Ethan. But I really don't. I think it's going to be fine. Obviously, he played, but I think it just needs to be protected. I'm sure it's your joint in there. He probably, I don't know if he got it the ball or he jammed it on someone's practice jersey or exactly how it happened.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Bennett. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Just talk about the experience of game day down there on Saturday. What was the experience like having ESPN and College Game Day down there in the arena?
Yeah, well, we've been fortunate to have it 3 out of 4 years in terms of just things have been going well that way. We're not really involved in the game day stuff itself. I think it was incredible for our fans and for a guy to make 3 years in a row that it's been here to make that half-court shot. That was just really impressive and great for the whole day and the excitement. But they get a huge turnout. The crowd for the game was buzzing. It was such an exciting feel and energy in the building. Anybody who was there would tell you that, and that's why, gosh, you're so hoping to come away with a victory in that setting because we were down, had to come back, and you could just feel it. And so from all that standpoint, couldn't ask for a louder, more charged atmosphere. And as far as the day itself, I didn't watch any of it. I wasn't involved with it. So I know the guy made the shot, and we had a little shoot around in our practice gym. I could see it was a big crowd and really loud and noisy. And I heard Chris Long got honored at the thing. So I think that's just great. There's some good stuff going on. They do it. They got that thing down to a science. And it's good for the game, of course, of college basketball, and same thing with football. It's impressive.
Thanks, Coach.
And our next question is from Sam Blunt with the Daily Progress. Please proceed.
Hey, Tony. I'm curious, what does Kyle do to kind of make himself ready to play 45 minutes for a game? I mean, you said the other day that you don't have to worry about him when it comes to that. How does he prepare himself to be able to play that long?
Some guys, I think sometimes guys just have they can go, they can run. He's lighter on his feet. You watch how he moves, and he covers a lot of ground. Some guys, they're just built where they can, you almost look at like distance runners or cross country runners. They can run 5 miles and hardly break a sweat. Kyle's just one of those where he can go, and I think sometimes guys that are heavier and thicker, play different spots, they can get worn down a little more. But because he's light and he's got a lot of, he just seems like he goes and doesn't get as tired as some guys, and that's just how he's built. And I think he's gotten stronger, so he handles that. But doesn't mean he doesn't need a rest or never gets a little fatigued. I just think you always watch guys, you look at them and you see them, and they seem like they can run around. And I wish I probably should have tried to give them a minute or two here or there just to sometimes mentally get set and just see it from the bench in that game. But it was a game where everybody was playing heavy minutes, and every basket, he's a shot away, I think, from getting on a good roll, and it just obviously didn't happen quite the way we wanted. But he's in great shape, and as is most of our guys are.
Hey, do you feel like that there was any chance that when he was missing a lot of those shots the other night, he was felt feeling in the legs a little bit? And as a whole, do you think the team is good at saying to you or another one of the coaches that if they're tired that they do need a break?
I don't know too many guys who say, "Coach, take me out. I need a break." They're all going to look you in the eye and say, "I'm fine." They all want to play. So, every now and then you can just see it. And there are a few who will raise their hand or just say, "Look, give me a little blow," because they know they're going back. But most of my guys are are full of BS when it comes to asking them, "Are you okay? Do you need a break?" They all say, "I'm fine, Coach. I'm fine." So I don't believe really any of them. We try to watch with our eyes.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll do it again next week.
Okay, Brian. Thanks.
All right, Tony. Take care.
Bye.
We have with us now Wake Forest head basketball coach Danny Manning, whose Deacons will host Georgia Tech on Wednesday in the game shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 9 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
Yeah, we lost to Syracuse yesterday. I thought the first half was one of the biggest, probably the difference in the ball game. Their zone kind of stifled us to a certain extent. The ball didn't move as well as it did in the second half. In the second half, we had better ball movement and able to make some shots and do some different things. And obviously, battle with someone that, we couldn't slow down. He went for 34 on us, so we didn't do a good enough job on him. And, didn't have enough to dig out the hole that we created for ourselves in the first half.
We open it for questions for Coach Manning.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our next question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Danny, last 3 games, Sean D. Brown's had 2 points, then 20, then 2. I know he's a freshman, so you expect some up and downs, but that's a drastic swing. What does he need to do to become more consistent?
Well, he is a freshman, and he's starting in the ACC, so he's making adjustments every game to game plans and styles of play. Yesterday was the first game back for Mitch Wilbekin after an extended period of time off with a twisted ankle. And, Mitch was 4 or 5 from 3 and gave us some really good minutes, especially in that second half, gave us a lot of life. And, Mitch just played a little bit more than Sean D has those last few games. But, he's just got to stay the course. I think he's doing some good things out there on the court. I think the other night, he went 1 for 6 and 0 of 2 from 3, where he got some good looks and shots just didn't fall for him. And we went with some guys that were playing, in my opinion, just a little bit better than him at that particular time.
So does Wilbekin look 100% pretty much, or close to it? Because obviously his shooting stroke is still there.
I don't know if he's 100%, but he's healthy enough to get out there and have a contribution, to make a contribution like he did the other day. And obviously, each day that passes, he becomes a little bit closer to 100%. But I don't believe he's 100%. But he's well enough to get out there and receive the clearance from our medical staff and our trainers to get out on the court. So we'll continue to work him back into our lineup.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Manning. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. I know you had a tough loss yesterday against Syracuse. What do you guys have to do? You have a quick turnaround against on Wednesday night against Georgia Tech. What do you guys have to do to get a home win?
Well, I think the second half against Syracuse, I thought we did some really good things. The ball moved a lot better for us. We had 15 assists in the second half. We got the ball into the paint. So we've got to come out and make sure that we get paint touches. I think that's something that's extremely important for us. And then we have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. Georgia Tech is a team that they run a high post offense. A lot of ball movement, a lot of player movement, and we're going to have to be really locked in our defensive principles to guard them opposed to chasing them. So if you're not locked in with your principles and you're not jumping to the basketball or in front of the basketball, you end up chasing them opposed to guarding them, and that makes that offense extremely hard and difficult to guard. So those are just a couple areas that we're going to have to make sure that we come out from the tip ready to go, prepared for.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Coach, could you talk, a question here from Greensboro, could you talk a little bit about the play of Darrell Moore this past week in 2 road games? He had back-to-back double-doubles, and he has 9 on the season.
Darrell, after the season ended last year, his off season was probably the best that he's had since he's been with us. Not probably, it was the best. Every day he came in and he challenged himself. He got better across the board, on the court, in the weight room, and things just really started to click for him last summer. And what we're seeing now is, I believe, just a byproduct of the work and the commitment and the perseverance that he's had throughout his time in college. When he stepped on our campus, we had Devin Thomas, who was our starting 5-man, who averaged a double-double. And then he was also fighting for minutes with John Collins. And then last year, John Collins averages a double-double, and Darrell is, splitting minutes with JC. And, Darrell has had an opportunity now. He's been our starting center from day one. And I think he's averaging a double-double in league play and almost 2 blocks a game. So, he's doing a lot for our team. He's having a huge presence for us offensively and defensively. And we're going to continue to challenge him to step out on the court and give more and more each time that he steps out there. But I think he's having, just from a numbers perspective and where he's come from, his improvement to me has been, something that we're all happy and proud of.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I believe we have a question from Steve Phillips with Greensboro.
Yeah, Danny, I don't know if you had a chance to look at Tech much since the injury bug has hit them. They're kind of shuffling lineups, doing a lot of different personnel. Does that present any particular matchup, the sense of the unknown now as you try to figure out how to break them down and attack them?
I started watching some of that Duke game yesterday, and I don't know the extent of Jose's injury, Alvarado. But, they're a team that they run the high post offense. I think Josh is playing exceptionally well. He's scoring the ball well. He's shooting it well from 3. He's getting to the free throw line. He scores inside. He scores outside. So, going into this ball game, I know he's someone that we're going to have to make sure that we keep tabs on at all times. I think Padgett Johnson and Ben Lammers have been playing well for him as well. So, they've got good balance across the court. So we just got to make sure that we know personnel and know who we're guarding and where they're at on the floor. And we got to try to disrupt their offense, because I feel like that high post offense a lot of times to me is a rhythm offense. So we have to be somewhat disruptive in allowing and not allowing them to get comfortable in a rhythm.
Yeah. And just, I guess you were on earlier, Coach Pastner was on earlier and did tell us that Jose's elbow was fractured, probably lost for the year. So that's a tough break for them there, too, is you?
Oh, wow, yeah, that is a tough break. I thought, Jose was playing exceptionally well for him. Averaging about 13 a game, was their lead and assist guy, shooting a high clip from the free throw line, and, shot the ball well from 3. So that's going to be a tough loss anytime you lose one of your starting players. We've been there before as players and coaches and understand that, and wish the best for Alvarado, and it gives other guys an opportunity to step into different roles.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Bye.
We have with us now Boston College head coach Jim Christian, whose Eagles will be at Pittsburgh on Tuesday, and the game shown on ESPN News with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open it for questions.
Just obviously a good weekend for us, beating a great Miami team in dramatic fashion at the end, and now hopefully, able to take some momentum on the road and, playing Pittsburgh in their second straight home game. So we know the sense of urgency they're going to play with. So just trying to prepare ourselves best we can.
We open it for questions for Coach Christian.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Coach, I know that you get asked a lot about Jerome Robinson, but he had back-to-back games of 46 and 29. He shoots a high percentage. Is he just one of these guys that's just a born natural scorer?
Well, you know, the one thing he does, I mean, he makes the game easier for a lot of other people. It's not just scoring. I mean, he had 29 on 13 shots, but he also, you know, he makes the right play, so other guys are able to do some things, and I think that kind of creates more opportunities for him. But he is, you know, he is playing with a lot of confidence, and he's letting the game come to him. He's not forcing things, and he's got confidence in his teammates. I mean, all the things that you'd want from a great player, and he's obviously, you know, he's playing at a fantastic level.
Is there, what are the kinds of things that he does to get himself those good shots?
You know, the one thing he's done a much better job of this year is he gets to the free throw line. So when you're going to the foul line for 8 or 9 times, for 8 or 9 shots, and he shoots almost 90%, you know, it adds up. I mean, I think last year he was not a very good free throw shooter. I mean, I think he was in a lot of similar situations last year, and he couldn't finish the plays. And then maybe he'd get fouled in some situations and didn't shoot as high a percentage. And sometimes it's just as simple as that. He's obviously an improved three-point shooter through hard work, and you know, he's developing. I mean, he's you know, he's developing into a good player. But it's not like he hasn't done this before. He was the leading returning scorer in the league. I think people forget that as a sophomore, and he missed half the season as a freshman. So I mean, it's not surprising to us. You know, I just want to make sure he keeps making the right plays and doesn't worry about, you know, how many points or what's going on. Just keep making the right plays.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Our next question is from Craig Meyer with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Please proceed.
Yeah, the Pitt team, Jim, you're going to be playing tomorrow is obviously 0-13 through the first 13 ACC games here. How much of or what elements of your 2016 team can you kind of see in what you've been able to see of Pitt?
You know, everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? I'm the last person that should speak about anybody else's situation. And I know they have a great coach who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, as does everybody in the league. What he's done is, over the course of his career, is, you know, what I shoot to do. He's been, you know, so successful. But I think it's numbers. I mean, the one thing that you can't argue with is numbers. So after my first year here, and I can only talk about my situation. I can't talk about theirs because I'm not intimately, obviously, connected to it. But after my first year here, I had 9 available scholarships. 9 after year 1. So you only get 13, and I think they have 10 new guys after his first year. So this is a very hard league to rebuild in, man. When you got to sign 9 or 10 players, it's hard to find that many great players who could come in and be productive in this league, whether they be young or older, and understand the night in, night out train. So I think that was our situation, and you know, we just believed in our plan, and our plan is starting to, you know, to come to fruition now. That we played these young guys, they got better, they learned from their experiences, they got physically stronger, they gained more confidence as they had successes. Even though, you know, I always saw some of our successes, other people outside didn't see it. I was seeing it, and eventually, you know, hopefully it works. So that was our plan. I'm sure Coach Stallings, because of all his success, has a great plan, and I'm sure it's going to work for him as well.
Yeah. You know, for you guys, Jim, what was the most difficult part about coming back, you know, from a winless ACC season, and how much carryover was there, you know, from guys experiencing all those losses?
You know, I think the first thing you find out is, you know, who's in it. You know, who's in it with you. So you remember Jerome Robinson was on that team. So I never once worried about him leaving or wavered about it. He's wavered about it. He's got a great family. He believed in everything that we were doing. So the most important part is to maintain, you know, the roster, so the guys who are learning, who are getting better, you know, they can keep coming back and building it. But you got to have the right type of young men, and I think, and then you got to keep adding to that, you know, because you're always pieces away. You know, if you got some staples in the first class, like we had a Jerome Robinson, now you've got to find additional pieces. You had a Nico Popovich for us, or a Kai Bowman in the second year, and now, now those pieces are starting to come together, and that's really what it is. It's a process. It's not the NBA, man. You can't just go sign 4 or 5 free agents. You can't go sign these guys. It's a process, and it's a building process, and it's a step-by-step thing because you play in the best league in the country, bar none.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you, Jim.
Thank you.
Our next question is from the line of Christopher Huddle with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Jim. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Doing great. Just talk about that Pitt squad. They're 0-13 in the ACC. How dangerous are they? Because they could actually be. It looks like they were in a couple games and they weren't in a couple games, so they could win the ball game any night.
I think you asked and answered your question. I think they are very dangerous. I think everybody in this league is dangerous. They're good at home. I mean, they've played well at home for the most part, and we have not played well on the road. So, I mean, it's something's got to give a little bit. But we have to be ready to play, and we have to be ready to play at a high level in order to win. Everybody in this league is really good at home. Everybody. So we just got to be as prepared as we can be and get our guys mentally ready. We don't worry about whether we're playing a team that hasn't won as much games as they would like, or whether we're playing a team like Virginia who was undefeated. You got to go play, and you got to play as hard as you can and be as prepared as you can, and that's our plan.
Good luck tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question is from Hayes Permar with Sports Channel 8. Please proceed.
Coach, with the success of both Jerome and Kai Bowman, does it make you think you can recruit in North Carolina more? The general consensus is there's 4 ACC schools down here. How do you come down here? But it's a state rich for overlooked guys with a lot of athletes who might normally play football playing basketball. Does it encourage you to come down here and recruit more?
No doubt. We've done it, and we will continue to do it. I mean, again, the one thing that we tried to identify was where do kids want to play in the ACC? And I think in the state of North Carolina, a lot of those kids, they grow up wanting to play in the ACC and obviously want to play at, some of the main schools down there. But if those schools don't come calling, then their ears are at least open to hear your story. And I think that's kind of what happened with both of those guys is, we were fortunate enough to be in a league that those kids wanted to play in. And now they have a chance to see, okay, they at least give you the opportunity to talk about what it is, role they would play, how you do things, the different aspects of our school that are unique and good for people that people want to hear from. So of course we're gonna continue to go down there as we have.
Thanks, Coach.
No problem.
Any further questions for Coach Christian?
To register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week. See you, Jim.
Thanks, guys. Okay, bye-bye.
Check this line.
Hello.
We have with us now Florida State head basketball coach Leonard Hamilton, whose Seminoles will host Clemson on Wednesday, and the game shown on the Regional Sports Network with a 7 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, and we'll open for questions.
We lost 2 games last week, one against a very good Virginia basketball team. And I thought our kids played well for 36 minutes, and obviously the game's 40 minutes, and obviously we didn't close the game against a very smart and heady Virginia team. Lost to Notre Dame over the weekend. They played exceptionally well, and they deserve the win. Now we're trying to prepare for probably one of the hottest teams in the conference, and that's Clemson on Wednesday night.
We open it for questions.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Leonard, you just alluded to the fact that they're one of the hottest teams in the conference. What are they doing especially well right now?
They're playing connected. They're playing with a lot of determination, like there's a goal that they have in mind. You see it with their body language. You see it with the everything that they do, the way they communicate with one another, how they connected with the coaching staff. Everybody seems to have accepted their roles, and they understand that in order for them to be successful, each person has to fulfill their roles. And they've been very, very fun to watch. Now, playing against them, I'm not real sure. I'm looking forward to that, but watching them is what basketball is all about. The team sport where everybody's connected, playing for each other, creating for one another, and knowing the roles and accepting the roles that they have on the team. Very, very impressive.
Do you see things in your team's play that, in particular, that need to be ironed out as you get in deeper into the season?
I think we are like, right now, we're like a lot of teams. You hit that period. You always hit a period during the year. Unfortunately, if we knew how to stop it, that we would never let it happen. I feel that we've kind of lost our focus a little bit in terms of doing all the little things that are necessary for the full 40 minutes. In each game, we have periods in games where we've played very, very well, but then we have periods in games where we're not as connected as we were earlier during the year, and we got to get that rhythm back, offensively and defensively.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Hamilton. How you doing?
Fine, sir. How you doing?
Doing great. Just talk about the games against Clemson. Is this the same thing like in football when Clemson takes on Florida State? It's the same, basically that same rivalry type format that when you play against a Clemson squad.
Absolutely not. Every game in the ACC, if you don't treat it like it's a rivalry, something bad can happen. We don't have the luxury of picking and choosing who our rivalries are, like maybe Florida State and Clemson does in football. In the ACC, if you put any less emphasis on any game, something bad will happen. Every game in the ACC is winnable, and you also can lose it. We don't have the luxury of not giving every team in the ACC the ultimate respect. That's the difference.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Okay. Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll do it again next week. We have with us now Louisville head basketball coach David Padgett, whose Cardinals will host North Carolina on Saturday in the game shown on ESPN with an 8 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then open for questions.
Well, we got a couple days off here to kind of regroup, and got this week to get healthy with a couple guys and just kind of to get our feet back on the ground. It was a long 2-week stretch. We had a lot of games, 5 games in a short period of time, so we could use this little mini break we got here. But we're definitely going to need it because the last 5 games to finish up for us are pretty tough, starting with obviously a very, very good North Carolina team on Saturday. So we're looking forward to, kind of regrouping here and then trying to finish the season strong.
We open it for questions for Coach Padgett.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. Our first question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed. Oh, sorry, Mr. Haas, your line is open.
Go.
Yes, Coach. In the absence of Dang Adele, you got 2 really nice games from Jordan, and is it Nwora? Forgive me for not pronouncing it correctly if that's the case. But just talk about his play and the way he's picked up the slack there.
Well, the N is silent, just for reference. It's Wara. But,
Wara. Thank you.
Not only Jordan, but I thought the most impressive thing about our guys in these last 2 games with Dang being out was nobody tried to do everything themselves in the absence of one of your better players. Guys just, they came in and they did what they do. Nobody tried to do anything that they can't do. Nobody tried to do anything that they shouldn't do. They just played their roles. Jordan played well, obviously, shot the ball well. I thought Darius Perry played very, very well the last few games. Ryan McMahon played very, very well. So it was a collective effort from a lot of guys to step up when we needed to, and it helped us get 2 very good wins.
And what is Adele's status for this game coming up?
Well, he's just day-to-day. He's currently still. We're off today, so we don't have practice or anything. But we just got to see how it goes, see how the rest of the week goes. Timing-wise, it kind of worked out well that we were able to get those 2 wins without him and having the rest of this week off, getting ready for Saturday. So, if everything goes to plan, I think we'll have him back on Saturday, but we just got to take it day by day.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Padgett. How you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
Just talk about you guys have to play North Carolina on Saturday. What do you guys have to do this week to get ready for that game?
Well, obviously, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of North Carolina is you got to rebound the ball. I mean, their rebounding margin is always one of the tops in the country, if not the top, and this year's no exception. I think they're, have a double-digit rebounding margin in league games alone, which to me is incredibly impressive, especially given, the way their team has played this year. And what I mean by that is that they've kind of gone away from their traditional, 2 post-player lineup, and they've played what most teams would consider 4 guards. So for them to continue their high-level rebounding, to me, is very, very impressive. Offensively, they're always extremely talented, can score in bunches and can score in a hurry. So, defensively, we just have to be locked in on what we need to do. We got to try to just continue to do what we do. It's whether you're playing North Carolina or Duke or Virginia or whoever it may be. You don't want to just completely change everything you do. We have to try to be ready defensively. We have to try to rebound the ball, and we have to take care of the ball. They're a team that can force some turnovers at times, and if you're careless with the ball, they can make you pay for it.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Hayes Permar with Sports Channel 8. Please proceed.
Coach, you're in the middle of the regular season for conference play where, you're in the routine of a game during the week, a game on the weekend for the most part. Some people would say that to be a little bit of a grind or maybe even, like a lull getting into that routine. I'm wondering the way you were sort of thrown into the fire with your job, if it's almost like a welcome part now that you're into what would be the routine or the drudge of the season. Is it almost welcome to be into that routine?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't, even in non-conference or conference play, whatever it may be, I haven't spent a whole lot of time reflecting or thinking back or anything like that. We've looked at the schedule from a weekly basis and a daily basis and just said, what do we need to do today or what do we need to do this week and what's in front of us and that kind of thing. So, this week obviously is our quote-unquote mini break, I guess, that maybe every team has. And, it probably comes at a good time for a lot of reasons. But, with that being said, we just got to approach the next game in front of us, and that's North Carolina on Saturday. So, we're not looking back and saying, man, what if we could have done this? And we're not looking ahead saying we have to do this. We're just focused on the next task in front of us. And right now that's North Carolina.
As a follow-up, is it nice that the mini break falls on your birthday, and are you planning on celebrating in any way?
Well, I've never had the luxury of celebrating a birthday because it always falls right in the heart of basketball season. But, I think for our guys just mentally and physically, this week is good. Just, we'll take the day off. We probably won't even do a whole lot tomorrow, and we'll still have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get ready for Saturday, just because the last couple of weeks were tough. I mean, I know every team has had one of those stretches at some point in the year, but, we had 5 games in a short period of time, and they were all very physical and tough, demanding games. And so, we kind of need this little break here to regroup and get ready for this last 3-week stretch because it's a pretty tough one. There's no question about that.
Nothing for the birthday? No dinner? Nothing?
No, I think my wife and I will probably go out to dinner, and that's about it. So I'm not one into celebrating my own birthday. So I just kind of, especially this time of year, it's hard to think about anything else but basketball. So,
thanks, Coach.
Our next question is from Steve Phillips with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Coach, wondered if yesterday you felt like that was one of the better games Darius Perry's played for you, and if you could just discuss his progress over the course of the season.
Well, like I said earlier, the thing about Darius that's been very impressive the last few games is he hasn't tried to change who he is or what he does. He's obviously one of our better defenders. He's got the most quickness on the team. He really does a good job of staying in front of his man when he's guarding the ball, and he's really facilitated our offense with Quentin out there as well. I mean, the two of them have, I think, 12 assists between the two of them and only 3 or 4 turnovers in pretty extensive minutes yesterday. So that's obviously a very good sign. He's really trying to create for others and just play how you would expect a guard of his caliber to play. So, he's gotten better. I know there were some tough times where, maybe he wasn't playing as well or playing as much as he'd liked, but he stayed with it. He just stayed ready, as all of our freshmen have, and all of a sudden an opportunity presents itself where somebody goes down with an injury and your number gets called, and he really came in and stepped up and played well for us on both ends of the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Coach Padgett?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We have with us now Syracuse head basketball coach Jim Boeheim, whose Orange will host NC State on Wednesday, and the game shown on the ACC network at 9 o'clock. As we do each week, we'll go right to questions for Coach Boeheim.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. And our first question is from the line of John Kekis with the Associated Press. Please proceed.
Hey, Jim. Can you talk about Tyus's accomplishments this year and what he's meant to the team and his role as a leader?
Well, he came off a really good freshman year where he
really finished the year very strong. So he showed what he could do. He worked really hard over the summer. I think he really improved tremendously because of his hard work, and he went from being a third option or fourth option on our team to being the first option. And he stepped in from the beginning and has embraced that, and has been very, very good on both ends of the court.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And our next question is from the line of Donna DeToto with Syracuse.com. Please proceed.
Yeah, hey, Jim, where are you with Matt Moyer right now?
Where? What do you mean, where am I?
I mean, is he gonna? Where is he able to play? Is he injured, or what is his status?
Well, he's obviously injured. He couldn't play yesterday. I haven't seen him today.
Okay, because you had mentioned that you were going to talk to him after the game yesterday, or you were going to talk to him at some point.
Well, we talk all the time. We talk every day. He said he couldn't play yesterday, and that's it. I haven't talked to him today.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Yeah, Jim, freshmen in this league typically have, obviously, ups and downs, but Brissett has been, statistically anyway, one of your most consistent players. How has his game developed over the course of this season that maybe in ways, beyond statistics?
He's really, like you said, he's been there every night for us. Especially his rebounding has been there every single night. He gets to the basket, he scores. His shooting has improved from the 3-point line as the season has progressed tremendously. He's still missing a lot around the basket, which I think he is working on. I think he can get better there. But he's given us very, very consistent effort and play every game, every single game, which is unusual for a freshman.
How is he fitting in defensively for you?
He's a good, solid defensive player. He really is. He does a real good job at that end of the court. He's a really, really solid player. I can't think of too many freshmen who are more important to their team than he is. I mean, he's been there for us every night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our first question is from Mike Waters with the Syracuse Post-Standard. Please proceed.
Jim, you just played Wake Forest for the second time yesterday. Now you played North Carolina State for the first time on Wednesday. What's the different types of challenges in preparing a team for their first meeting with another team for this late in the season?
Well, you know that when you play the team once, you know what they try to do against you, and you try to affect some of those things, and you have an idea what you can do against them. But they have the same information, so I think it works both ways. It helps both teams when you play the team for the second time. Whenever you play the team for the first time, you're preparing off what you've seen, and you've seen a lot of games, a lot of tape. So you have a good idea what they do, but it's a little different than when you've already played somebody. You have a better feel for what you can do against them.
And our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Chris Boeheim. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Talk about NC State a little bit. What type of coach is Coach Keatts? I saw him a lot in the CAA a couple years ago with NC Wilmington. What type of coach is he?
Well, he's done an unbelievable job. I think he's done as good a coaching job as anybody in the country. He's just completely turned them around in terms of how hard they play their defense. I just think he's done an unbelievable job with this team and their effort and their approach to the game. And I just think he's done a tremendous job. And I think that they're one of the better offensive teams in the league. They come at you with a lot of different weapons. They're really a well-balanced team, and they're a really well-coached team, difficult team to play against.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Coach Boeheim?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a question from John Keatts with the Associated Press. Please proceed.
Hey, Jim, this is a little off topic, but can you talk about building a Division I program like Albany has in the last 15, 18 years, going from nothing to being a pretty good team in the conference? And the contributions of Doc Sowers, too.
Well, of course, Doc Sowers was one of my best friends. We've been playing golf together for over 40 years, and he obviously did a great job there. And I think that Albany in the last 15, 16 years since Will Brown's been there has really done an incredible job. I think he's built that program and been able to compete and get to the NCAA tournament. I think they've done a great job at Albany, a really good job.
How hard is it to do that in this day and age?
Oh, it's very hard. It's very hard to change that, but they've done a tremendous job. They really have.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Any further questions?
Register for a question, please press 1-4.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today, and we'll hear from you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We have with us now Miami head basketball coach Jim Larranaga, whose Hurricanes will host Virginia on Tuesday in a game shown nationally on ESPN with a 9 o'clock tip. Coach, if you could, a few comments about your team, then we'll open it for questions.
Well, I thought we had a very nice win at home over Wake Forest on Wednesday. And then we traveled to Boston College, and I had caught the flu bug, and unfortunately, for the first time in 46 years of coaching, I ended up missing the game. I was kind of knocked out in the locker room, but my staff did a great job and put us in position to win the game. I had 70-64 with just about 4 minutes to play in the game, but Boston College's guys did a great job of coming back and making some big shots and big free throws down the stretch. So a tough loss for us, but now we've got a very short turnaround getting ready for the number one team in the country, Virginia.
We open for questions for Coach Larranaga.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. Our first question is from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Hey, Jim. First off, have you recovered, and will you be coaching this next game?
Well, I'm not fully recovered. I've started on some new medication. Hopefully that'll help clear it up. I do feel a little better. I listened to the broadcast of our game when I got back from Boston, and they said I was in the locker room watching the game on TV. That was incorrect. I was
in the locker room laying down with my eyes shut. I was sick and not feeling good, and was basically sleeping the whole time.
Do you expect to coach this one?
Yeah, I'm in the office now, and I'll be at practice today, and hopefully feel better and better.
And then looking at UVA, what do you pick up in terms of why their defense has been maybe even better this year than in recent years?
Well, I think one of the things that Tony Bennett and his staff have done is they've developed a reputation and a tradition of playing great defense and getting players to buy into that concept of how to play their pack line defense. And so the experience that they have when you look at an Isaiah Wilkins or Devin Hall, Jack Salt, Ty Jerome, and Kyle Guy, you have a lot of experienced guys who've played it for at least one year, and now it's almost 2 for those younger guys, and 3 or 4 years for the older guys. So I think they've developed a great style of play that suits their personnel, and Tony and his staff have done a great job of getting them to embrace it.
Thank you. Feel better.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Hey, Jim, glad to hear you're doing better. What kind of adjustments have you had to make since Bruce Brown went out?
Well, it's interesting what's transpired. We've moved Chris Likes, a freshman, into the starting lineup, and he's been able to produce some points for us, almost, I think, matching what Bruce was doing scoring-wise. And then we brought in another freshman, Sam Wardenberg, to try to help us with the rebounding and the defense. So I think the guys have adjusted pretty well. But it's very hard to replace a Bruce Brown who does so much at both ends of the court, and especially his leadership down the stretch. I know the coaches would have loved to have had Bruce on the court late in the Boston College game.
Our next question is from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Larranaga. I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, thanks.
Just talk about how good is this Virginia squad. I know they're coming off a overtime loss to Virginia Tech. You know, do you think you're going to see a different Virginia squad tomorrow night?
No, I think what's made them so good is their consistency at both ends of the court. I mean, everybody talks about their defense because they're number 1 in the country, but they're also a terrific offensive team. Their guards are able to stretch the defense and shoot threes about as good as anybody. When you have Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and Devin Hall on the perimeter, you can't slough off of anybody or help off of anybody. And the big guys are very good at getting them open. And one of the things they're doing really well is hitting the offensive boards, and if they don't get it, just getting a hand on it and tipping it out and getting themselves additional possessions. So they're playing at a very high level and certainly deserve their high ranking.
Thanks, Coach. I hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Our next question is from Bill Haas with Greensboro. Please proceed.
Jim, there are some teams in the ACC that are playing with short benches this year. Some teams use 6, maybe 7 guys. Even with the loss of Bruce Brown, you're able to go 8 deep. Is that something that you consciously recruit for, and so you can use that many guys in your rotation?
Well, I would say everybody in our league recruits good players. Even guys that are not playing, that are on your bench, are ACC caliber recruits. Some of them are top 50, top 25 players. So it's not about the depth. It's about the coaching philosophy as to how many guys to use. you can always use a guy in short spurts, even if he's not one of your 6 or 7 best players. You know, you can go deeper if you choose to, but that's a choice for most coaches.
Thank you.
Our next question is from the line of Doug Dowdy with Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Yeah, Jim, looking at these past scores, it appears that you've been able to beat Virginia on occasion by playing at their tempo. How do you view the tempo going into these games, and would you like to speed it up, or do you feel that you're best acknowledging that there are going to be fewer possessions?
Well, the first thing, tempo is, if you want to create tempo, you normally have to do it from your defense. You got to be pressuring and forcing people to react to you. We really don't do that. We're very comfortable in an up-tempo game, and I've told this team we're very capable of putting 75, 80 points on the board in an up-tempo game. But there's no way we can create that with our defensive philosophy. And Virginia's not somebody you can speed up anyway. They're going to take time with the shot clock, and then they're going to eliminate fast breaks by sending 3/4 of their team back, not giving you any fast break opportunities. And then it takes you a while to get a good shot at the offensive end. And even if you utilize the clock for 20 or 25 or 30 seconds, you still might not get a good shot. So the game is more likely to be played to 50 than it is 60, 70, or 80.
And you're okay with that?
Well, again, that's not my choice, but we don't really have a choice of speeding them up, and they're not easy to speed up anyway. And you can look at their scores with all their opponents. The only opponent that was able to beat them in the non-conference was West Virginia, who presses the entire game, and one of the best in the country at turning you over and speeding you up. But last year when we played at Virginia, I think the score at the end of regulation was like 44 all. And that didn't surprise us in the least. So, and then the first year, I think it was our first year, we beat them here on a tip-in. It was like 52-50. So we're comfortable knowing that it's going to be a low-possession game, a low-scoring game. What we want is to not allow them to get a working margin where you feel like you're, dug yourself a big hole. Last year, very late in the game, with like 3 minutes to go, we were down 7, and it looked like an insurmountable deficit to make up in such a short period of time. But our guys hung tough, made some good decisions, and we got some stops. Virginia gets a lot of credit for their defense, but at one time, back in December, we were the number 1 defensive team in the country for points per possession. And so we've lost a little bit of our identity that way, and we're trying to recapture that.
I think our next question is from David Teal with the Daily Press. Please proceed.
Jim, you mentioned that at one time earlier in the season, you guys were number 1 in defensive efficiency. Even if you maintain your current pace, this would be your best defensive team since the Final Four group in 2006. What has ignited or keyed your defense this season?
Well, that's a hard question to answer when I'm feeling the way I am about our defense, because at one time I was very, very pleased with the amount of pressure we were able to put on the ball and then still protect the basket. We were really defending the 3 extremely well, and that made all the difference in the world. But we got into conference play, and to the credit of our opponents, the three-point shooting has been just absolutely spectacular this year, and very, very hard to guard. I mean, start out, you're trying to guard Clemson's basically four-guard offense and then launching threes from everywhere. And you play Virginia Tech, they've got four guards and sometimes a fifth, and they can all stretch you out and shoot it. And the teams we play this week, Virginia, those three guys I mentioned earlier, just phenomenal three-point shooters, and it stretches your defense out. I'd like to see us play a little bit smarter defensively. We've I think gotten away from some of the fundamentals that we worked on in the preseason and early in the season. And some of that has to do with the very difficult travel schedule that we have faced. We've just traveled so much. To me, I think that's why I got the flu. I'm just exhausted.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today. And since you play next Monday, we'll hear from you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
All right, Jim. Take care. Hope you feel better. We have with us now Virginia Tech head basketball coach Buzz Williams, whose Hokies will be at Duke on Wednesday, game shown nationally on ESPN2 with a 7 o'clock tip. And as we do each week, we'll go right to questions for Coach Williams.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Buzz, we talked so much on Saturday about the defensive improvement you guys made all during last week. What kind of a challenge will Duke present to that defense for you guys?
We'll be ultra challenged per position from the first possession. I think they have some of the best players in the country, including the best player in the country, in my opinion. So we'll be stressed from the beginning on how to at least be in a position to get a stop.
And as far as your approach this week, the guys talked about, and you talked about, defense only last week, and that was a pretty dramatic, I guess, shakeup. Do you go back to a normal practice approach this week, or what do you do to keep this going?
No, sir. We won't change. The same sort of thing that we did in preparation for NC State was the exact same that we did for UVA. I don't know, Mike, honestly, that our priority can change. I don't know that having more than one priority is what's best for our group as of now. And so our approach for this week, regardless of opponent, will be the same.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Our next question is from David Teal with the Daily Press. Please proceed.
Buzz, you alluded to Marvin Bagley. What did Duke show you last night being able to score 80 on the road without him?
Yeah, and I think they could have scored more. Just haven't completely studied it, but just from watching it at first glance, I think they could have scored more than 80. I think it just speaks to their talent. I think it speaks to their personnel. I think it speaks to coach and the confidence he has, regardless of who's on the floor, to put those guys in a position to be successful. You're playing arguably without the best player in the country, not in the league, in the country. The leading scorer in the league, lead rebounder, et cetera, and you're on the road, and you could have scored more than 80. So that maybe that answers Barber's question a little better.
And then how different are they when they, like last night when they start O'Connell and then bring Duval off the bench?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously not coaching their team. I don't know if that was kind of a portion of Bagley's not going to play, so let's change our look this way so that this is what we start with and this is how we'll change as the game progresses. I think they're a different team. Obviously, O'Connell can shoot it past half court and plays with a gait that
is a lot quicker, in my opinion, than it appears. Very confident player. And then Duval is as good of a guard as there is in the country at creating help, forcing help, and making the game easier for his teammates. So it's their personnel, regardless of who starts. I think the minutes will probably be similar, and I know Bagley will be back versus us, so I don't know if that will change who they play or who they start, I should say. So,
thanks, Buzz.
Yes, sir.
Our next question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. With Duke putting two bigs out there, how does that affect how you need to play defense, how you want to maybe play some of your guys together? How does that make an impact on your defense?
Yeah, whether it's either of those big guys or both of those big guys at the same time, Berman, we'll have trouble matching up, whether they're playing together or separate. And again, I don't know if, because Bagley set out, if that changes, their lens on how they want to play. I think they played more on maybe the right side of the floor, if you're looking at the rim, than they do when Bagley's playing, because he's so left-hand dominant. But as far as the plays, I didn't see different plays. Just kind of the thought process behind what they were doing was different, obviously, because he wasn't playing. But whether they play one big or both bigs, it will for sure cause us problems.
The fact that obviously you played Kentucky, they had a lot of size. Is that any kind of good defensive preparation for these guys? And also just the fact that you've now been to Charlottesville and Kentucky, does that kind of help your guys going? Just the having a good mindset, confident mindset going into Durham.
Good point. I think both of those places mirror the ambiance at Duke. Incredibly tough place to win. You can look at the winning percentages of all those three places. They're extraordinary. So we turned the ball over way too much against Kentucky, as you remember. I think the personnel at Duke is a different set grouping of personnel than UVA has and plays with. Both are elite in what they're doing. They're both top 5 teams, but I think their personnel, as far as what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it, is different. I think Kentucky/Duke, as far as their length and their athleticism and how potent they are on the offensive glass, how their length and their speed causes turnovers, those will be things that will be an issue for us, as they always have been. But with their personnel, for sure, it'll cause us problems.
Our next question is from John Kekis with the Associated Press. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I'm just wondering your impressions of Tyus Battle on Syracuse and what he brings to the Oranges lineup.
It's just so hard to guard. Long, really skilled with the ball, can score it at all 3 levels, creates space really quickly when he wants to get a shot. We really struggled guarding him. Similar to some of those other big guards Syracuse has had in our tenure here and our tenure before we got here, just hard to guard and can beat you off catch shoot, but even more dangerous on 1-2 dribble pull up, 1-2 dribble force help, finish at the rim. I think he's a really good player.
And we have a question from Doug Dowdy with Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Yes. Does the fact that Virginia has now been ranked number 1 add anything to your satisfaction or enjoyment of the win Saturday?
No. I think that they're good enough to win a national championship. So much, the utmost respect for Coach Bennett and how he runs his program and the remarkable job he's done during his tenure there. entering Saturday, they had lost one game. So I would say that's good enough to be number one in the country, considering they lost at West Virginia. So, you know, there was no motive relative to what they're ranked today or what they'll be ranked after our game. I think that's all the opinion of others. So all we can do is control us and what we were trying to accomplish, and thankful for sure for the result.
Okay, Coach, thanks for taking time being with us today. We'll hear from you again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We have with us today a Duke Associate Head Coach Jeff Capel in place of Mike Krzyzewski. Coach, if you could, a couple of comments about your team, then we'll open for questions.
First of all, we had a good win last night. You know, it was good to get back on the winning side. We had dropped 2 in a row to a very hot St. John's team, and then a tough loss to North Carolina, both games on the road. So anytime you can win on the road in this league like we did last night at Georgia Tech, speaks volumes, you know, for how tough this league is. So we feel good about that. We have a tough week, you know, coming up. That's what this league is about. It's the best league in the country, and we're excited about the challenge for this week.
We open for questions for Coach Capel.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. Our first question is from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious if you could tell me what you've seen already in terms of Virginia Tech's defensive improvement. Why have they gotten better in the past week or so on that end of the floor?
Well, you know, it sounds like there's been a lot of emphasis, you know, even more put into it. Obviously, everyone knows that Buzz is a very, very good coach, and you can see it in how hard those kids play for him, how together they are, some of the stuff they run, how they game plan, and things like that. You know, I think you see the improvement just, you know, because of the teaching that's going on with their coaching staff, obviously led by him. It seems like there's been more of an emphasis to really kind of, you know, take away drives. And they've done an outstanding job with that. You know, that's a strength of NC State's. It was driving the basketball. They opened the floor up, put you on a lot of ball screens, and they really did a good job of limiting them with that. And then, you know, you have to be so tough and tough-minded in order to beat Virginia Tech. And it was in order to beat Virginia, definitely to beat Virginia Tech too. You know, what was most impressive about that was that I'm pretty sure that Coach Williams and his staff felt like that, you know, they should have won that game in regulation. And to have the mental toughness to be able to come back in overtime and to do that, I think it speaks volumes of the kids in this program and the coaching staff and what a great job they're doing.
Thanks. And do you have an update on Marvin Bagley? Will he be available?
I don't yet. I've been in the funeral this morning, so I don't. We don't have an update yet.
Sorry to hear that. Thank you.
Our next question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. With the way Grayson Allen played last night and the good start you guys got off to, is that something you kind of think starting him in that role and bringing Duval off the bench something you'll continue to do now?
You know, I'm not sure. That's something that will be evaluated, and we'll talk about, and we'll figure out what's best suited for our team for this particular game. Grayson, you know, did a good job, and we certainly got off to a very good start down there. But, you know, no disrespect to Georgia Tech, but, you know, Virginia Tech, you know, they provide a different type of challenge. And so we'll figure out what's best for this particular game and proceed in that manner.
I don't know how much you've dug into Virginia Tech yet at this point, but what kind of challenges do they present for your defense?
A lot. I mean, a lot of people have provided challenges for our defense this year, but you know, certainly they're very unique because, you know, they drive the ball like crazy, and they can really, really shoot the basketball, and they're very efficient offensively. You know, I don't think there's been a better player over the last couple of weeks in our league than Robinson. You know, he's incredibly confident and shooting the ball well, but leading and attacking, and you know, just everything that a elite point guard does, he's doing that. And I think all of those guys feed off of him, obviously with Bibbs and you know, the rest of those guys. I mean, they feed off him. Blackshear's a very unique matchup because of his ability to step out and shoot the basketball. And then when they bring Clark in, you know, I think, you know, he may be one of the most unique guys in our league. Obviously, they play very fast. They push it in transition. I mean, it's a really good basketball team, and you've seen them continue to get better as the season's gone along.
Thank you. Our next question is from David Teal with the Daily Press. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Hey, David.
What does Alex O'Connell bring, whether he's coming off the bench or starting, what does he bring when he's out there, besides, obviously, range?
Yeah. You know, I think the main thing he brings, David, is energy. You know, he's a kid, when he's played well for us, and he's had some really, really good moments for us this year, is, you know, he's played with incredible energy. You know, he's a live body. He's long. He's a really good athlete. And so really when he's been most effective for us is when he's been disruptive defensively. And that's because of his activity and playing hard and things like that, getting deflections and getting, you know, his hand, getting passing lanes. And obviously, you know, he can stretch the floor for us with his ability to shoot. But I think the thing that he gives us most is energy off the bench or whether he's starting.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
And we have a question from Jonathan Alexander with the News and Observer. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering, what was the decision behind starting O'Connell over Trayvon Duval?
We just thought that was the best decision for our team for that particular game. You know, to get off to a really good start. And Alex played well in practice. He played well over at North Carolina. And so just to give him a shot, try something different. You know, we'd lost 2 games in a row. We'd lost 3 out of 4. And so we felt like we needed to do something different. And it worked. You know, we got off to a really good start. We did some very good things down in Atlanta last night. Credit to those kids because, you know, Georgia Tech's guys, because they continued to fight and you know, persevere. You know, they had a gruesome injury, you know, to one of their better players, but those kids fought, and you know, Kogi showed why he's one of the better guys in our league. But that was really the reason, just to see something different and to see if we could have improvement and to get a win.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for Coach Capel?
To register for a question, please press 1-4 on your telephone.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for taking time being with us today.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Jeff. Take care. And that concludes today's basketball teleconference. Thank you for taking part.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the call. We thank you for your participation. Now, so you please disconnect your line.